Hi guys, and welcome to my January Catwalk TBR game wrap-up. So for the month of January, I ended up with 5 prompts for my Catwalk TBR game. We'll go ahead and go with these in order. I have already filmed my February Catwalk TBR, and I did not take any punishment because I knew I would be able to complete, and complete I did. I read every book on my January TBR for my game, which means there was no punishment. So I only had 5 mandatory, I use that very loosely, but 5 priority reads is a better word. So 5 priority reads for the month of January. So the first, let's go ahead and get into this and I'll tell you what I read and what I rated it. So the oh, and before I get into this, I'm thinking about doing a stats video for January. But as of filming this video, it is the 23rd, and I want to give myself the rest of the month to read so I have more accurate numbers. No promise on that, but I do like watching other people's stat videos, so I might very well try to do that. We will see. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into this. So the first prompt that I got for January was a treat. Now, for my game, when I land on a treat, it signifies a cat treat, and it's just something enjoyable to look forward to. It's your favorite whatever food, drink, but in this case, it's a book that I really want to get to. So it's basically my choice. It's whatever I want. There's no stipulations. I can pick whatever. So for this one, I decided to go with an ARC that I have. For those of you who may not know, an ARC is an Advanced Reader's Copy, so an ARC. And I have had this copy for a long time. I won it from a contest on Goodreads. I have had this on a couple of different TBR piles, but I've always ran out of time, and I finally got to it. So this is, the book I'm talking about is Real Life. So this is obviously not the final edition. I'll insert the final edition here. So, but I've got the ARC here. So I've put a lot of tabs. There were a lot of words in this that I haven't come across before. And so I've looked up quite a bit of definitions. There's also some things that I underlined. So Real Life was written by Adeline, Dieudonne. I don't know how to say it, but this is translated, and I believe it's translated from French. And the translator is... oh yes, translated from the French by Roland Glasser. So now it does say the author is Belgian and lives in Brussels. Real Life, so this book that I'm talking about, is her debut book. And the publication date, at least according to the ARC, is February 4th of 2020. This one is told entirely of first person. Now I am going to say there are some trigger warnings to be aware of. It does get graphic as far as like blood and guts. So if you don't like that, then you'll want to avoid this because it does come up. The other thing that was very, like one thing that was very hard for me to read was there is quite a bit of animal cruelty in this. So please be aware of that. There is one scene that gets very graphic, and I will say that involves a goat. But there's also one that involves a dog. So you do have a couple of instances with that. You have animal abduction. You have spousal abuse and child abuse. And when I say spousal abuse and child abuse, I'm talking physical abuse as well as emotional abuse. You have murder. You have an adult male having sex with a minor, and the minor in this case is 15 years old. 15. Now, if this stuff doesn't bother you, you may like it. The other thing in this is it does have a lot of talk of time travel. So for instance, at the beginning of the book, there's this incident that happens, and I'm not going to say what it is because it's like the catalyst that sets a lot of this stuff in motion. But basically something happens. You have a brother and a sister. They both witness this particular event, and it affects them both differently. And this sister, of course, where she's the older sister, wants to protect her younger brother, and she talks about wanting to build a time machine like in Back to the Future and go back in time to try to change the events that led up to this particular huge event. You do have a lot of stuff. One thing I did like is the main character, and this is very, very bright. Part of it is her motivation to try to actually build a time machine, and she is very set that this actually can happen. And so she is very smart when it comes to science. And of course, with the abuse in the home, it's a lot of degrading and belittling, and you do see this all on paper. You see tearing someone down and physically beating them. You do see that. So it is very graphic. So please be aware of this. I ended up giving this a 4 stars. I thought it was very well written, and I am definitely intrigued to pick up more of this author's work. Now, let me tell you with some of the things that I tabbed, what I tabbed. So, for instance, one of the words that I underlined is atolls. It's A-T-O-L-L-S, atolls. And the definition is a ring-shaped reef. So, you know, and there's just several words like that. Ruminant, which is contemplative. Vertiginous, which is dizzy or having vertigo. You know, so there's a lot. Now, I do think the writing was very well done. I'll go ahead and read a couple of things to kind of give you a flavor of what the writing was like. This one says, there are people who'll darken your skies, who'll steal your joy, who'll sit on your shoulders to stop you flying free. Stay well away from people like that. Let's see, what else do I have? The sun caressed the fading day with a light that bore the sweet scent of caramelized honey. So in some instances, it's kind of poetic, but I do think the imagery was very well done. Now, with this, please keep in mind this is an ARC, at least the edition that I read, so those two phrases could be different in the final copy. I hope not. They were I thought, very well done. So I hope there's not a lot of changes. But that is Real Life by, I'm just going to say Adeline because I have no idea how to pronounce her last name. So that's that one. Now, the second prompt that I got in my Catwalk TBR game is bird watching. And this is to read a book with an animal on the cover. Now, for this one, I decided to continue a series. And I read the second book in a trilogy. The trilogy is A Pinch of Magic. So I read the second book, which is A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison. And as you can see on the cover, there are birds. And there is an octopus as well. Because it is, all right, there's the octopus because it's a boat on water. This does, I'm not going to go much into this one because I don't want to spoil it. You do have 3 sisters. What I can say is this takes place on water, and there's a case of mistaken identity. One thing that I did like is the story thread of the Will-o'-the-Wisps. So if you've heard a lot about that in fairy tales or folklore, you have Will-o'-the-Wisps in this, and you learn a bit more about them, of how volatile they can be as far as leading people to their death. And things like that, and how some will-o'-the-wisps are probably pretty good, and where they originate from. So you also have, like I think I said, mistaken identity when it comes to one of the sisters and a complete stranger, and you are trying to decide what's real and what's not, what is a figment of the imagination or is an illusion, and what is tangible and actually flesh and blood or a real animate object. Or inanimate object, however you want to phrase it. And you do see a lot of the bond and love of the sisterhood, which I absolutely loved. And this is biological sisters. Just their love for each other, the love that they have for their grandmother, and the love that the grandmother has for them. You see more of that compared to the first book, I think. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to continuing on and reading the third book. The one thing I underlined in this is this. It says, everyone's dealt bad luck at some point. A shadow crossed his face. It's how you cope with it that counts. That's the only thing in this I underlined, and I thought that was very well done. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. And I am trying, I will say this, for the month of January, or at least for 2023, I am trying to rate these books based by using G's, from Book Roast, from G's latest Caw system. So far it's worked out instinctively. It has matched with what I've ended up giving rating throughout the Caw system. It's ended up matching. So far it's pretty good. Okay, moving on. Prompt number 3 that I got in the game is Catstagram. So this one I just scrolled through Instagram, ended up on a random picture. The random picture that I landed on Instagram was of a cat. And so this one I went with a manga that has 5 cats on the cover, and that is Cat Massage Therapy. Now this one, with it being a very short manga, there's really not a lot I can say about this. I ended up giving this one 5 stars as well. It is very, very cute. The cover that you're seeing is an accurate, very accurate, spot on the nose description of what the artwork is throughout the book. There's another cat here on the back. These are cats that, it's kind of like a contemporary but with fantastical elements, because these cats are able to communicate with humans, and these cats have a way to give a massage that helps alleviate stress and things like that. And they go to this office. In this particular book, a lot of it takes place at an office, and people are saying, this is my favorite cat, this is my favorite cat. And again, these cats are massage therapists, and so there's a lot of talk of which one's the favorite, and the adult cats are actual massage therapists. You do have 3 kittens in this, and they are massage therapists, but they are trainees in this. It is just a very sweet book. If you would like to get into manga and don't really know where to start, I highly recommend this. It's a very simple read. It's very easy. It's very kind of comforting in a way. You don't have a lot of story build up, but this one is book number 2 in this, and I think there's only 3 out so far. I can't remember, but Cat Massage Therapy, and this is by Haru Hisakawa. I'm sure I said that wrong, sorry, but highly, highly enjoyable, and definitely highly recommend picking this up. Okay. The 4th prompt that I got was nap time, and this, because cats sleep a lot and they tend to take long naps, so this is going to be nap time. Translates into reading a book that is greater than or equal to 500 pages. So for this one, I selected to read The Chestnut Man by Soren Sviestrup. This, I believe, is also translated, and I don't remember. Does it say who the translator was? I don't see. Oh, translated by Carolyn Waight. I knew it was in there. And this was published by Harper, looks like, so be aware of that. But this is the Book of Month edition, and this was really good. It is definitely a thriller. One thing to keep aware of for this is you also have a lot of reference to child abuse, and that is a very large driving force in this. You also have spousal abuse, and when I say child abuse, there's various forms of it, so it's not just like it's verbal or anything like that. So I'm talking like sexual, verbal, things like that. You also have spousal abuse, you have sexual assault, and you have talk of an affair. So if any of those are bothering to you, definitely avoid this, because it does get very detailed in this. One thing I will say too is this does have Autism Rep. Now the Autism Rep is a side character, like almost a side of a side character. It's definitely not the main character or a prominent side character, and it's just kind of mentioned every now and then, like this is so-and-so's son and he's autistic, and then it mentions it again, oh, he's on the autism spectrum, and so this is why he's handling something the way that he is. So there is the autism rep in there. You also have alcohol abuse in this. So this one, basically what is happening is you're following, this is multiple perspectives. I believe it's at least, if I remember right, 2 perspectives. One from a male law enforcement officer and one from a female. And you, basically what has happened is in this town, and I believe it takes place in, for whatever reason I wanted to say Belgium, but I could be wrong. There is reference to Germany in this, but a lot of references to Holland. So this takes place somewhere in the Netherlands, I want to say. But basically there's this dead body. The police go to investigate. They find a little chestnut figurine. So it's basically someone has taken like 1 or 2 chestnuts and taken some matchsticks and assembled them. So it's like a little chestnut man, literally. And that is with all of the bodies that they find. They're starting to see certain connections. And you see on the investigation how there are some police that get very cocky and get in their own way and refuse to believe when there is a clue that the path that they were on originally is probably not right, to try to save face and not make themselves look like a total butt. They try to ignore it, and that just makes them look even more of a horse's patoot. So, but this does get graphic. I will say this as well. You do have like body parts missing and things like that. So please be aware if you do like, I wouldn't say it's body horror. It's just, it's the best way I can describe it is not body horror, but it's talking about the police investigating a murder where their body was mutilated. So I guess that could classify as body horror, but I've read books with body horror in it, and that the body horror has been more extreme than what is in this, but it does still get pretty graphic because it is describing the murder scene and all the bloodshed and things like that. So, but I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Thoroughly love this. I did look up to see if Soren has other books that are published. I don't think there were any yet. If there was one that has been translated. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for more of Soren's work for when things become translated and available in English in the United States. So I really enjoyed this. So if you're okay with the graphic, a lot of the blood with looking at a murder scene, I think you'll enjoy this. If you like thrillers, I thoroughly like this. And a bonus with this, I personally really like it when chapters in books are short. I feel like it helps propel the story along a little faster, and that was the case with this one. The stories are very short. In some cases, I think there was an instance where it was 1 page. In other cases, it's 2 to 3 pages. So chapters are very short in this. So if you like small, short chapters, that's a good one for you. Okay. The last prompt that I got for the January Catwalk TBR is Clowder, which is a group of cats. This could be kittens and adults, but just various cats and various breeds. So you have a group of cats called Clowder, and this prompt is to read a book that is in a series because it's a group of cats, group of books, aka series. So I decided to go with a graphic novel in this case, and I went with the 9th book in the Phoebe and Her Unicorn series. So not much I can say about this because it's the 9th book. Just the very basic synopsis is this girl here, Phoebe, who's like in fourth grade, right around there, is out in the woods one time. She happens to see the unicorn, whose name is Marigold, staring at the lake. But before she sees the unicorn, Phoebe is skipping rocks, and the rock hits Marigold, and then they meet. Marigold grants Phoebe a wish, and Phoebe wishes to be best friends with this unicorn, and then you're following on their adventures. This particular book, there's not a big underlying story in this one. That's all several different events, like a show and tell. I think this one did this one have a unicorn camp? So instead of going to like a child's camp for the summer, she goes to unicorn camp. Phoebe goes to Marigold's camp. Yeah, there is. So there is a little bit of camping in this. what else can I say about this one? I mean, there's an event where they go bowling, but that's only like maybe 5 pages in this. Pardon me. And where the title is Unicorn Bowling, I thought there would be a lot more of the bowling, but there's not. So there's just various adventures that they go on. And this was by Dana Simpson. Now, for those of you who do want to read more works by authors that are part of the LGBT community, Dana Simpson is transgender, is a trans woman. So that's something, if you want to read more books by trans people, that's something that I found out. I had no idea. All I care about is that the book is good, and I think this whole series is great. It's very quick. It's very warm. It kind of warms the heart. They're very tender stories and sweet and things like that. So that's it. That's all I can really say. So these are the 5 books that I read for my January Catwalk TBR. Again, I completed it fairly early on, and so when I filmed my February game, as you will see when that video posts, that, or if you have already seen it, if this video comes out after that one, I didn't have to take a punishment, and I've got a lot of books for February to read, and so I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up taking a punishment in March, but that is okay. So that is it. Let me know if you have read any of these books or any other books by any of these authors. Talk to me in the comment section below. And until next time, stay true to yourself and enjoy a good book. And I'll talk to you later.